Now, let's be honest. And when it comes to physical intimacy, most people think men are easy to figure out, as if there are only 1 or 2 places you need to touch and the rest is just optional. But what if I told you that's the biggest myth we've all been sold? Because here's the truth. Men crave more than just physical sensation. They crave presence. They crave connection. They crave the feeling of being desired, not just in a general, you're hot kind of way, but in a deeply personal one. They want to feel like you're not just there for the act, but for him, his body, his energy, his experience. And nothing communicates that more powerfully than your touch. Now, I'm not just talking about touch for the sake of stimulation. I'm talking about intentional touch, the kind that makes him feel seen, the kind that slows time, the kind that bypasses the surface level stuff and taps into the part of him that rarely gets acknowledged, the part that wants to feel wanted in a way that goes beyond just performance. And this is where so many people miss the mark in bed, because we get so focused on doing the right things or being good at sex that we forget the one thing that matters most. How does he feel in your hands? Does he feel safe, excited, electrified, held? Does he feel like you're there with him, not just going through the motions? Does he feel like you know his body, or are you just checking off the basics and hoping it's enough? Because here's the truth that no one says out loud. The way you touch a man can completely change how he sees you. It can move him from, that was hot, to, I can't stop thinking about her. From casual sex to emotional imprint. That's how powerful touch is. And what's even more exciting? You don't need to be anyone but yourself. You don't need to become some sultry vixen with years of experience. You just need to be present, curious, and aware of what makes him come alive. Because when your touch feels like an invitation, not just to his body, but to his soul, you create something unforgettable. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 places a man wants to be touched during sex, not just because they feel good, although they absolutely do, but because they make him feel connected, seen, desirable in a way most men rarely get to experience. And when you learn to touch a man this way, you don't just become someone he had a good night with. You become someone he remembers every time he closes his eyes. Let's dive in. The back of his neck now. When we think about intimacy, especially the physical kind, we often imagine the obvious, the places that get the most attention, the most direct stimulation. But if you really want to create a moment that sticks with a man, emotionally as well as physically, you need to pay attention to the places that speak to instinct. And the back of his neck, that's one of them. There's something profoundly primal about this spot. It's not flashy, it's not overtly sexual, but when you place your hand there, gently, intentionally, you ignite a part of him that isn't just about arousal, it's about surrender. Why? Because the back of the neck is one of the most unguarded areas on a man's body. It's where vulnerability and masculinity meet. This is the place where control loosens and instinct kicks in. Whether you're running your fingers slowly along his hairline during a kiss or placing your palm gently there as you guide him closer, it's not just touch, it's invitation, it's presence. It's a silent message that says, I want you close, right here, right now. You see, most people rush through sex. It becomes about rhythm, performance, and hitting all the right beats. But real connection lives in the in-between. It lives in those quiet moments where your hands say things your words don't, like when you pull him toward you by the back of his neck and he feels, in that second, like the only man in the world. It also taps into something deeper, his desire to be chosen. When you touch that spot, it reminds him that he's not just a participant in some routine, he's the one you want, the one you're calling closer. And that to a man is intoxicating. And let's talk about eye contact for a moment. Combine that gentle grip or caress at the back of his neck with deep, locked-in eye contact. Now you've just lit his whole nervous system on fire. Not because you're trying to perform, but because you're fully there, engaged, leaving him with softness and power at the same time. That's what makes this touch so powerful. It's not just sexual, it's psychological. It bypasses his ego and goes straight to his subconscious. It says, I see you. I feel safe with you. And I want you, not just physically, but energetically. So whether it's a slow drag of your nails, a soft grip as you pull him into a kiss, or a gentle nurturing stroke after the moment has peaked, don't overlook the back of his neck. Touch it like you mean it, like you're speaking through your fingertips. Because when you do, you won't just arouse him, you'll anchor the entire experience in something he won't be able to stop thinking about. And that, my friend, is how you start to become unforgettable. His lower back or hips now. This one is incredibly underrated, and because of that, it's one of the most powerful tools you have when it comes to creating deeper physical and emotional intimacy. Most people think of touch during sex as this checklist of erogenous zones, but true impact happens in the places that surprise him, the places that aren't just about turning him on, but about grounding him in the moment. And the lower back or the curve of his hips is one of those exact places. Touching a man there, especially when you're close, when you're straddling him, does something more than just excite him. It makes him feel held, supported. It's a kind of masculine softness that men don't often get to feel in everyday life. Because most of the time, men are in roles where they have to lead, direct, carry weight. But in that one moment, when your hands slide down and cradle that space right above his hips, you give him something else, permission to let go. And that's something he doesn't even realize he's craving. It's the difference between sex that's purely physical and sex that feels safe. Sex that feels like it's not just about bodies colliding, but about two people meeting each other exactly where they are. When you pull him toward you by the hips or wrap your arms around his lower back while you move together, you're doing more than creating pleasure, you're creating presence. There's also something deeply sensual about this area. It's where movement begins, where rhythm lives. When you put your hands on his hips, you're not just touching him, you're guiding the tempo of the moment. You're leading the dance. It's subtle, it's sexy, and it tells him, I'm here, I'm with you, and I'm not afraid to take up space in this experience. It's the kind of touch that doesn't scream for attention, but it commands it. Because again, it's unexpected, it's not where most people go first, and that's what makes it memorable. It's intimate in a way that says, I know your body. I know what grounds you. I know what brings you back into this moment with me. And sometimes it's not even about moving at all. Sometimes it's the stillness that speaks loudest. Just placing your palm against the small of his back while he's inside you. No words, no instruction, just presence. That moment alone can be devastatingly intimate. Because you're not trying to excite, you're simply there, steady, close, wrapped around him like you belong there. And here's what you need to understand. It's not just the location that makes this touch powerful. It's the intention behind it. It's the confidence to slow down, to go deeper, to touch him in a way that says, I'm not in a rush to get anywhere. I'm here to experience you fully. That's the kind of energy that makes him lean into you emotionally, not just physically. That's what makes him feel something that lingers long after the sex is over. So don't underestimate the power of his lower back or his hips. When you touch him there, you're not just engaging his body, you're inviting him to let go. And that's something he won't just feel in the moment, he'll remember it. Because most people touch with their hands, but you touch with presence. And that changes everything. The inside of his thighs. Now, this right here, this is one of the most erotically charged, psychologically powerful places you can touch a man during sex. And yet, it's one of the most underused, because so many people focus on the destination, the obvious, the direct, the expected, that they forget how powerful the edges are. And the inside of his thighs, that's the edge that makes everything else 10 times more intense. This area is deeply sensitive, but not in a way that shouts for attention. It's the kind of sensitivity that responds to patience, to teasing, to anticipation. And that's the magic. It's all about the build-up. You see, when you touch the inside of a man's thighs, slightly, slowly, without rushing to what comes next, you're creating tension. Delicious, mind-consuming tension. You're saying, I could go further, but I'm choosing not to. And the moment of not yet, that's what drives him wild, because you're showing him that you're in no rush, that you're present, that you know how to savor him. And most importantly, you're showing him that you're in control of the energy. That kind of sensual restraint is magnetic. It draws him in, not just physically, but mentally. He's not just turned on, he's captivated. He's hanging on your every move, wondering what's coming next, craving your touch like it's air. And it's not just about the surface level stimulation. This area is packed with nerve endings. It's vulnerable, it's close, but not quite. So when you run your fingers there, or trace gentle circles with your nails, or even breathe against it lightly without touching at all, you're not just teasing his body, you're igniting his imagination. That's the real key, because if you can turn on a man's mind, you'll own his body without even trying. Touching the inside of his thighs is also symbolic. It tells him you're not just focused on you, you're exploring him. You're curious about what makes his body react. And that right there is what most men don't experience often enough, being the object of focused, sensual attention. So many men are taught to perform during sex, to give, to lead, to deliver. But when you take the time to explore his pleasure zones, especially one as intimate as the inside of his thighs, it tells him, this isn't just about what you can do for me. I want you to receive. I want to know what makes you melt. That shifts everything. Suddenly, the sex isn't just about physical release. It becomes a shared exploration, a moment where he can relax, let go of the pressure to perform and just feel. And let me tell you this, when a man feels like he's being discovered, not just used for his usual moves, but truly explored with curiosity and care, it awakens a whole new level of connection. One that makes him want to come back to you, not just for the pleasure, but for the way you made him feel in his skin. So next time, don't rush, slow down. Let your hands drift to those forgotten spaces. Explore the inside of his thighs with confidence, with intention, and with playful restraint. Because in the right hands, a place as overlooked as this becomes unforgettable. His chest, specifically over his heart. Now, let's take a moment and shift the focus, not to another erotic zone, but to something more subtle, more emotional, more human. His chest, and more specifically, over his heart. Most people underestimate the power of this touch. They think of the chest as just muscle, something aesthetic, something physical. But when you place your hand softly, slowly, over a man's heart during intimacy, you're not just touching his body, you're touching his guard. And in that one moment, you're saying, you can drop it, is what you need to know. The chest is often a place of armor for men. It's where they carry their pride, their strength, their confidence. It's the space they instinctively puff up when they're trying to look tough or keep themselves emotionally safe. But the moment you place your hand there, whether it's mid-passion, in a quiet moment afterward, or while you're lying on him in stillness, You're doing something profound. You're telling him, I'm not here to conquer you, I'm here to see you. That single touch can do what 1,000 words can't. It can drop his defenses, soften his breathing, and bring him into a place of genuine presence with you. It anchors him. It brings him out of his head, out of the pressure to perform, to impress, to be everything at once, and brings him into his body, into the feeling of being held, being safe, being desired not just for what he does, but for who he is. And here's where it gets even more beautiful. That kind of touch builds emotional trust. It creates a memory, not just a sexual one, but a felt experience, one that tells him, even in the middle of intense desire, I can be myself here. I can breathe here. I can feel here. And when you touch a man in a way that makes him feel emotionally free, that's when everything changes. That's when sex becomes connection, when lust turns into longing, when a moment turns into a bond. Don't underestimate the sensuality in this, because there's nothing sexier than a woman who knows how to play with contrast. You can be wildly seductive, deeply passionate, totally in tune with his desire, and then in the middle of that fire, slow it all down with a single hand, resting over his heart. It's intimate, it's grounding, and it's irresistibly feminine. Because what you're really doing is reminding him that he's not just a body to use, but a soul to touch. And that kind of experience, it doesn't fade the next morning. It lingers. It lives in his chest long after you've left the room. So the next time you're in the moment with him, try this. Press your hand gently over his heart. Feel his breath. Feel his heart beat. Look him in the eyes. Say nothing. Just be there. Because when you connect to that space, you're doing more than making love. You're making a mark. The backs of his knees or legs now, if you're reading this and thinking, really? The backs of his knees? Stay with me, because this point isn't just about where you touch a man. It's about how you surprise him, how you break him out of autopilot, how you remind him that seduction isn't always loud. It's often found in the places he never saw coming. The backs of his knees or legs are such an overlooked zone. But that's exactly what makes them so powerful. Most men never have this area touched during intimacy. It's not part of the script. It's not what porn zooms in on. But when you explore this area, especially when you're already skin to skin, tangled in the energy of the moment, you're telling him there are no rules here. I explore where I please. And that right there, that's captivating. Because the truth is, sexual chemistry thrives on contrast, on unpredictability. When your hands go somewhere unexpected, like behind his knees or sliding softly along the backs of his legs, you jolt his nervous system in the best way. You create a spike of sensation that catches him off guard and lights up the parts of his body that haven't been dulled by repetition. Think about it. When he's lying down and completely surrendered, when he's in that blissed out space of pleasure, and then suddenly your fingertips trace the back of his thigh or your nails lightly skim the sensitive skin behind his knee, that moment becomes electric. His body wakes up, his mind quiets. He's no longer just reacting, he's experiencing. This is also a powerful way to claim control in a way that's incredibly feminine and sensual. It's not aggressive, it's not performative, it's playful, it's exploratory, and it shows confidence. You're not following a script, you're writing your own. And that kind of curiosity, that's addictive to a man, because it tells him this isn't just sex, this is art, and you're the canvas. And let's not ignore the psychological side of this. These underexplored areas, the ones that feel vulnerable, ticklish, sensitive, they often bypass the logic of the brain and go straight to the nervous system. That means even the lightest touch in those places can trigger a wave of sensation that's almost involuntary. He's not choosing to react, his body has to. And that level of physical responsiveness creates an intensity that words can't touch. But the real power of this move is in what it represents. It says, I'm paying attention, I'm present. I'm not here to just I'm here to explore you. That's what elevates intimacy. When you make him feel seen, not just in the places everyone sees, but in the spaces that get ignored, you become unforgettable, not because of what you look like or how wild you get, but because of the way you make him feel things he didn't even know he could feel. So don't be afraid to slow down, to let your hands wander to places that have never been noticed, to let curiosity lead the moment instead of choreography. Because when you touch a man in the places that no one else does, you don't just leave your mark on his skin, you leave it in his memory. So let's be honest, when it comes to sex, most people just do what they think they're supposed to do. They touch the obvious places, move the obvious way, and hope that the moment feels good enough to matter. But what separates unforgettable lovers from the rest isn't about being the most outrageous or the most experienced or even the most confident. It's about being present. It's about noticing the places on a man's body that respond not just to touch, but to care, to attention, to intention. The truth is, men crave to be explored just as much as women do. They want to feel like their bodies are worth discovering, that they can be the object of deep desire, that you're not just there to receive, you're there to play, to learn, to lead in your own powerful feminine way. And when you know the power in your hands, when you understand that touching his chest over his heart, sliding your palm down his back, grazing the inside of his thighs, brushing behind his knees, or guiding him by the hips isn't just about sex, but about connection, you become unforgettable. That's when you stop being a moment and start being a memory. So here's my challenge for you. The next time you find yourself in that intimate space with someone, slow down. Really slow down. Don't just go where everyone else goes. Go where he doesn't expect. Go where he forgets he even has sensation. Go where his guard drops and his senses awaken. Make it your mission to turn his body into a map and you the most curious traveler. Because the woman who explores him with confidence, tenderness, and just enough playfulness to keep him on edge, that's the woman he won't forget. And if you want more ways to become unforgettable in his mind, heart, and body, make sure you subscribe, because we're just getting started. Until next time, be bold, be playful, be present, because when you are, he'll feel you long after the moment has passed.